About a month ago, most people couldn't tell you who the president of Ukraine is or was. Now, Volodymyr Zelenskyy is one of the most beloved presidents in the world, become sort of a folk hero, if you will. And today he received a standing ovation from Congress. He has touched the hearts, just with pictures like this and videos like this, of so many Americans. Take a listen to him today.
Today, the Ukrainian people are defending not only Ukraine. We are fighting for the values of Europe and the world, sacrificing our lives in the name of the future.
All right, standing ovation, as we said, at the United States Congress. It was a pretty incredible moment when you think about how Volodymyr Zelenskyy has been incredibly embraced by the world, and Vladimir Putin has been totally isolated by the world. Video of Congress standing today in ovation for Zelenskyy, especially when he thought this takeover would be done in a week. At least that's what Vladimir Putin thought. And now we are starting to see the desperation from Vladimir Putin. Joining me now, David Salvo, Deputy Director, the Alliance for Securing Democracy. You spend a lot of time in Russia, a lot of time studying Vladimir Putin. When he sees this, does he become more scared or more defiant?
Well, thanks for having me. He definitely becomes more defiant. There's nothing he likes more than a good fight. And frankly, Zelenskyy going to the United States Congress and essentially rallying Democrats and Republicans for once to stand behind his cause and getting President Biden to pony up $800 million more in security assistance, that's only going to make him dig his heels in even more. And frankly, he's going to continue most likely to try to pummel the country into submission, which, and we should admire the Ukrainians for their bravery because they are up in the fight against their lives.
Well, and we've talked about it before on the show, obviously not with you, but we're glad to have you, that Zelenskyy may survive as president, but president of what? There's not going to be much of a country, certainly east of the Dnieper River. There's not going to be much left to come back to after however long Putin's army continues to shell it. There's been so much talk about not provoking Putin and in some ways not trying to give him a reason to be tougher or to take the fight over to Poland or attack a NATO country. But at the same time, Vladimir Putin says sanctions are already an act of war upon him. Is trying to placate him or not provoke him a worthy mission or aim or goal?
It's a delicate balance, and I don't envy President Biden here because, look, on one hand, you have to stand up to Putin because, and this is, I think, any Russian leader would respond, would prey on weakness and respond to strength. So the more assistance, the more resolve we demonstrate, the more that's going to factor into President Putin's calculus on how far he's going to go. On the other hand, there is this potential risk of an escalatory spiral. And for example, if we did establish a no-fly, if NATO established a no-fly zone,
that's a whole different thing. And we've talked, that is tantamount to war when you start shooting down Russian planes. But there's reasonable people can disagree. Okay, should you give Harpoon anti-ship missiles? Should you not? Should you allow the MiGs to fly from Poland, the fighter jets into Ukraine? On and on. What is curious to me, and I'm wondering how Vladimir Putin reads this, is the telegraphing by the administration of all the things they won't do. It seems as though the White House is playing to Vladimir Putin's red lines, not the other way around.
Well, yeah, that is true. And frankly, I mean, the invasion could have been preordained because for years we've been saying, we the United States and NATO are not going to come to Ukraine's defense if Russia invades. So here we are today. But it is a risk. This is a nuclear power we are talking about. President Putin has said publicly he will use tactical nuclear weapons to defend his strategic interests in Ukraine. That's a tough bluff to call. So it's a delicate balance that we have to continue to tread.
Well, we also know that the Russian war doctrine is different than the United States. They will use tactical nuclear weapons, and Zelenskyy knows this as well, that their doctrine says use tactical nuclear weapons for strategic means, although Putin has never done it. He didn't do it in Syria, didn't do it in other places. I wanted to ask about Marnie's interview last break. There was a woman on whose son, Tyler, was grabbed in Crimea on his way out. A lot of questions here. Why do you go south rather than north and the like? But the U.S. Embassy in Moscow is working on this. I can't imagine, as sad as this is, the U.S. Embassy in Moscow being able to do much of anything. You worked there during a similarly tense time, but not even quite like this when Putin invaded the Republic of Georgia. Even in the best of times, there's not a great relationship. Is there any hope?
It's tough, and my heart goes out to him and to his mom and the family. It's an impossible situation. It's not like in normal times, an American consular officer would have access to an American prisoner in Russia. This is clearly not normal times. We don't even know where he's being detained. He could be in the conflict zone, in which case certainly there's no American officer that's going to have access to him. So it's really sad, and most likely the Russians are just going to use him as a bargaining chip, which they've done before.
Yeah, and continue to do. Yeah, and
Yes.
as you point out, David, having access is so far on the continuum from getting somebody home, even when they've done nothing wrong. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you for your service to all of us. Being stationed in Moscow sometimes is a tough one. Thank you, and we're looking forward to having you back. This was a great conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.